Hello, thank you for signing up to this month-long pop-up newsletter. In the course of the next few weeks, I'm going to be sharing with you some very well-known speeches and some ideas that you might get from them about how you can do your own public talks better. That might be something businessy, it might be political, it might be a wedding speech, I have no idea. But I'm going to be sharing ideas that I put into this book, which is published by Short Books this year, a modest book about how to make an adequate speech, and it's a book that I'm very proud of. But to get started, before we go anywhere, I'm going to read to you from a part of the book where I described the process of taking apart a very well-known speech and trying to work out what that person who delivered that speech was up to and how they might have planned it. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to read you that preamble of my own, and then I'm going to start reading that famous person's speech. And I'm going to put some subtitles explaining what I think is actually going on as the speaker is speaking. I don't know how well this is going to work. I'm just making it up. So here we go. This is from page 93 in my book. And it's just the preamble. In the next episode, which will probably be when these newsletters start, and it's not going to be the whole contents of the newsletter, it's kind of like a daily bonus, I'm going to give you sections from this person's famous speech. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Just to pause a second here, what I'm doing is trying to get to know you a little bit. I don't know who's signed up for this thing. I don't know who you are or what kind of speech you're making. And this is what everyone, whoever makes a speech, has to do, is kind of assess the audience, say, hello, this is who I am, this is what I'm hoping to do. And I say to you now, this is me, John Paul, saying this, I say to you that I would love to know what you're looking to get out of this, because that helps me to deliver it better. And that's what any speaker might want to do. So what am I trying to get across? I'm trying to get across the fact that I've thought a lot about this stuff and put it into a book, and to share my own genuine enthusiasm for people making speeches. And that includes you, because you have a voice, I have a voice, we all have a voice, and your voice deserves to be heard. Right, back to the plan. This bit, it says, take it apart to see the workings. I hope it says it the right way around, because in my screen it's back to front. Before devising your own next talk or presentation, it will help to look at what somebody else has done in a speech that was a proven success. Then take it apart carefully to see if you can work out how it was put together. I've chosen a speech for you to work on. It changed history. I won't tell you yet who delivered it, but it was a classic voice in the wilderness speech from somebody desperately trying to get people to stop ignoring a problem and take it seriously. If you took the same basic structure, you could use this speech to write a speech about natural disaster, a health crisis, or assorted forms of injustice. In fact, almost anything that's unsettling. I will tell you how I took it apart, and I suggest you do the same as we go along. I bet you 10p you won't do it. That's what it says in the book. I bet you 10p you won't do it. You'll think you can just read it, absorb the essence, and skip on. But that would be a mistake. Please yourself. If, on the other hand, you do as I suggest, well, I have a shiny 10p coin just for you. On a blank sheet of paper, I wrote the topic in the middle. Let's call it Voice in the Wilderness. Then I drew 4 branches coming off it, and I wrote at the end of each branch the following titles: intentions, credentials, reasoning, and emotion. Then I read the speech on paper, first silently in my head, and then out loud, and then again silently. Only that way could I really get my head around it. On the third reading, I underlined anything that particularly struck me, and I added a note about it on my mind map in the appropriate area. It's important to emphasize that I didn't do this perfectly, not by any means. I made mistakes, put things in what later felt like the wrong place, but that didn't matter. It was the process of doing it that helped me to get my head around the speech. I then redrew the mind map, not once, but twice. And only after that was I able to look at it, breathe deeply and think, yes, that's right. I'm deliberately not telling you what the speech was about because I'd like to show you the general shape before I fill it with specifics. If I gave you the specifics too soon, you might not see so clearly how you could make your own use of the general shape. Broadly speaking, speeches tend to move from the past through the present and into the future. They feature credentials towards the beginning, reasoning in the middle, and a nice wodge of emotion at the end. But these are broad strokes, not a rule to be followed rigidly. Speaking for myself, I quite like to kick off with a bit of emotion, getting an audience really engaged, and then go back and explain the situation. Sometimes I like to finish with something strictly logical, but each one of us has a preference. If you're just starting and want a bit of guidance, stick to the conventional shape. Now to a breakdown of the actual speech with specifics. It was delivered to the House of Commons by Winston Churchill, and you can read the full text on the following pages, with footnotes added by me to give you a rough sense of how I tried to do the impossible, to work out backwards how he put the speech together. You'll see in the footnotes that I've used the rhetorical terms for credentials: ethos, reasoning, logos, and emotion, pathos. And on the following page, there is a mind map of how I tried to work out what Churchill was up to. And on the page after that, the speech begins. Can you see that? I don't know. Can you see it? Yeah. And so in the next episode of this little made up as I'm going along video series, I'm going to give you the start of Churchill's speech and what I think he was actually getting up to, underlying the particular words that he chose. It's a long speech, so I'm not going to do it all in one bit. I'm going to do it in lots of bits. Anyway, I'm really glad to have you signed up for this email newsletter.